Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. Tate Mathews, we're back from spring break. And then there was one. Independence boys basketball. The dust has cleared, and they're still standing.
They're still standing. Third year in a row that they're still standing
It's
in
strong.
the state tournament. That's 4 years as the head coach, Coach Wilkins. And that's a program thing, but there has to be a leader. He's the leader. 4 years as the head coach, 4 years in the sectionals, 3 years in the state state tournament, And as of right now, they're still the defending 4A state champions. What a run. You called it back in media day. Kudos. You did call it. You were right. I know you were a little worried there for a little bit, but that's okay, man. What a great story. What a tough team. The way they've done it, there's just so many great storylines with the Independence Eagles this year.
Well, I'm going to give you credit, actually, Tate, since it's a new start. Spring break, spring is in the air.
Yes.
First official day of spring's coming up. You actually said that Franklin win the district tournament, which they did.
Correct.
But then after that's where it got a little different.
Got a little sideways.
So let's do this, Tate, because when we last talked, we were heading in to the semifinals of the region tournament. So we're going to get to that.
Okay.
But we're going to start with this. The boys, sub-state. And forgive me, I'm a sub-state.
That's right.
There's something about that
Me too.
sub-state.
It's like Twitter X. It's
Twitter.
It's Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Or it's Twitter X, but it's not X.
Never will be X.
Never. Not for this show.
Not that we're against, just not for that.
No, just not for that.
So, boys sectional. So you got Independence Beach.
Yep.
I had the pleasure of being at that game. It was at Independence High School. By the way, they played last year in that game. The year before it was Green Hill. Beach came out. They're up like 15-6. They're rolling. Independence may have had the lead early that I don't remember, but they basically took the lead with a couple minutes to go.
That's it.
They were down 30-21 going the fourth quarter. 30-21, and the final was 43-20 or 36. So I'm not great at math, but that means they scored 22 in the fourth, 21 in the previous three quarters.
Correct.
And I'm telling you, once they took that lead, here's what I noticed at the game. Beach, who has a really good team, and they've been in these games, but not like Indy. I thought at the end, Beach had this look like, I hope we get to the finish line. Independence had the look of, we're getting ready to get to the finish line. And it started with tournament, Tyler Lewis. He had the big dunk to make them go up 40-36, and it was over.
It was over.
It was incredible. It really was.
Yeah, that is a big run. And that was the thing that jumped out to me when I saw it. I mean, like again, at the end of the third quarter, it's only 30-21. And then for them to win 43-36, if nothing else, you would have thought that the game would have been slowed down, right? Like, hey, they've only scored 21 points. I've never done it. You have. But I'm thinking they've only scored 21 points in three quarters. They're not shooting lights out. Let's not give them – if we limit their opportunities, there's not enough chances to score that many points. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, yeah, tough team, man. This is a tough – who knows? It's not fair yet because we don't know where it ends up. You mentioned that Beach game last year. I think that one ended up being like 77-60 something, but just goes to show the difference in the teams. But – I don't know if this is the most talented team that they've had, but I think it's the toughest.
You talking about Indy?
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you, kudos to the coaches.
Yeah.
Kudos to the players. And this is no disrespect at all. For them to make the state tournament, they have maxed this thing out.
Yep, I agree.
And who knows once you get there. I know they've got a tough team in the first round we'll talk about in a second, but you can't beat them all if you don't beat them all.
That's right.
So you may as well just jump in there.
Yeah, you're gonna get one at some point.
So we'll see what happens.
Which is, I know that we've got plenty today. I'd like to next week go into where you stand on the tournament preceding, or do you like the blind draw? There's always somebody that runs into. This year it's Coffee County getting Bradley Central in the first round.
I'm kind of okay with the blind draw. I really am, and this is coming from a person that a couple times the blind draw.
Smacked you right in the teeth.
Yeah, it really did. I would argue that my last year at Franklin, there's no question we were the third best team, maybe second. And we drew the unbeatable Bearden in the first round, and we hung in there. But
I was there.
Eventually it got kind of nasty.
Whoa.
So whatever. I think that's just part of it. But I get when people do it. Here's why the other way I think is imperfect. You say we're seeding it, but based on what?
Right.
Max preps, who you played, what I thought. It's going to get messed up too. What won't happen though is the top one or two won't play each other.
Right.
That's usually pretty obvious who those teams are. So I do get it. Soccer's kind of gone to something like that, but I think before it's over, they might regret it.
At least in wrestling, you got a way to work your way back.
Yes.
You don't in basketball, which there's not enough time, and there's really not. We'll get to this now in a second too. But now we learned this last year with the 4 classifications. Independence is tipping off. Might as well be having midnight madness, but that's okay. It'll still be fun and well attended. But golly, Coach Wilkins said the other day, I'm usually in bed by 9. We're tipping off at 8:45. So
if you're lucky,
that's right. But yeah, that was a big win, big fourth quarter, and your boy Dawson Miller got hot, hit some real nice threes. He's got some great range, and talked to Coach Wilkins about that too. But that's one thing I loved about what he said was without tournament Tylen, some of the looks I don't get if he's not on the floor. He affects the game in so many ways. But then Dawson just draining those things. High arc. He's got a pretty shot.
Here's what I like too. The players came through when they needed to. You mentioned Dawson Miller, 18 points. Tylen hits a couple of threes in the fourth quarter, and he's not really known for hitting threes.
Right.
Hit a bunch of free throws. At times he struggled from the line. When it matters, that dude comes through.
No doubt.
Cool as a cucumber. And I'm going to give a shout out to Harris Hall. To me, Harris Hall has done what Dawson Miller did last year. There was a lineup change where Dawson came in last year. It changed Independence for the better. They go on to a state title. I give Coach Wilkins credit for being willing to do that, and that team credit for accepting it. Because sometimes it's tough. You change the lineup late in the year, and teammates get the feelings hurt.
Right.
It takes leadership to get that done correctly. The same thing happened with Harris Hall. He has a more prominent role. That guy in one of the region games, had 15 rebounds. He weighs like 160 pounds, maybe. And he's in there banging it up. Beach has a real good player, Cutter Sisk. Big, tough kid. I think he was averaging 20 points or 24 points and 12. He had 12 points, and there was a little bit of I don't want to use the word complaint, but, it's too physical. And, Mike, that guy weighs 160 pounds. And you're worried about too physical? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
Even if I thought it, I wouldn't have said it.
Well, I'm just saying Independence was the tougher team.
Got after him.
They just were the tougher team. But again, great year by Beach. I've got great love for Beach High School as well. So great season by them, but Independence is moving on. Now, let's do this. We got to mention Centennial. They lose in the sectional to Hillsboro 51-23. This score is kind of goofy because it was 15-11 at the half. They're only down 4. They got the pace the way they need it. They're down 20-17, 6:10 left in the third. And then all of a sudden, Hillsboro's one of those teams. The floodgates open. They end up getting the lead. Coach Moore alluded to, hey, we had to try to play faster. That was a bad deal. And then it went from bad to worse, and they get beat 28. Doesn't take away, in my opinion, the great year, the great run that Centennial had. First time ever. In fact, I want to interject it right now, if you don't mind, Mr. Mathews. Let's talk about this week's gym. Centennial's first trip to the region final was this year, which also got them in the sectionals. Now, I went back and looked at this. Went back all the way to 2000, 2001. I don't know if you realize this. They were only in the region semis 2 other times. 2008, they lost to Hillsboro. 2018, they lost to Cane Ridge. Cane Ridge, unfortunately, could not win the championship that year.
I do remember.
If you remember, that's another story for another day. However,
they got caught up in a maroon house.
That's impressive. I mean, I knew Centennial basketball hadn't quite got to the pinnacle. I didn't know it was that level.
Me either.
Not even the region semi. The third region semi since 2000.
Yeah. Well, they've had a Mr. Basketball, right? Didn't Drew win Mr. Basketball?
They sure did.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the only one we've ever had.
Yeah.
The only winner.
Crazy. The other thing that blew my mind, Coach Moore has been a head coach, 23 years? Is that right?
Long time.
It's his first sectional
It is.
sub-state.
I was
I
really
would have lost that bet too.
I was really happy for him
Me too.
because he's had some good teams, does a good job. It also just shows you, going back to what Coach Wilkins has done, and by the way, with Coach Wilkins, his last 4 years at South Gibson, they went to sub-state 3 times. He's been to 7 sectionals in 8 years. And you look at Coach Moore, he's been once.
Right.
That shows you how tough it is to get there. You can be good.
That's right.
You know, we used to always say in coaching, and he ended great. The coaches in Middle Tennessee used to say, man, it's too bad that Dennis King has never made the state tournament. It was years before they went. But when they finally went, they went a few times, state runner-up. So everybody was happy about that because we knew what kind of coach he was.
Yes. And that was one of the greatest state tournament memories that I'll ever have. It was the year they were playing Blackman. Coach King's out there, man. He's in his shirt and tie, and he's got his
Timberlands.
He's got his Timberlands on with his khakis, and he forgot his belt. So he kept having. Ask Davenport about this. He had to keep pulling his pants up, and you know he's a former boxer, and so he's boxing with the. And somebody talked him into. I don't know. They were doing some quick calls or whatever.
The play.
He had a wrist coach.
He got it from you, didn't he?
Yeah, but he had on like a button-down, like nice shirt, and he's got this wrist coach over it. Man, he can't keep his pants up. It was awesome. That was a great game.
Undefeated Blackman went down.
Yes,
I think that's one of the all-time. There's these wins that happen in the state tournament. I've been told that the BGA over Good Pasture win was maybe number 1 ever.
it's pretty big.
But this was one that I think the fan bases were, the people just watching were like, I'm glad that happened.
Yes, the BGA over Good Pasture was big time.
Gary Smith, legend.
Gary Smith, yep. But I tell you another one. I don't know if people consider that as much as an upset, but as far as collection of talent, Kelly Jolly's little brother or big brother, no, older brother, they beat Brent Jolly, White County beat Pearl Cone. You remember that Pearl Cone?
Yes.
I mean, goodness gracious, that was a big upset, or at least as far as talent goes.
Fan favorite too.
Yes.
Let's talk just real quick how they got there, because I want to give a shout out to our other teams that were eliminated. So on the boys' side, just a reminder, the semifinals it was all Wilco. So we moved from Coffee County back to Franklin High because Franklin won the district tournament.
Which you love.
I love that. Franklin was up on Centennial, 33-23 at the half. Franklin ends up winning, Centennial ends up winning by 10. Centennial with the win, 56-46. I'm not surprised Centennial won. In fact, you, Tate Mathews, called it.
I just felt like this was a team. Well, let's go back real quick. You want to know how good Hillsborough is?
Yes, I do.
McKelvey, Patton, and Ezel. None of them in double figures.
4, 4, and 7.
4, 4, and 7. That's how good Hillsborough is.
Yeah,
Hillsborough is legit.
They're good.
Right? Yeah. So, anyways, I just felt like they had it going, man, and they'd been so close so many times. They got 3 guys that can go out there and score in double figure, really 20 points any night. Kenai Johnson, Riley Turner, the football guys had come around. Coach Moore does there's no stone left unturned on the scouts. And then sooner or later they were going to have a night where maybe Brown gets in foul trouble, which I think he did in that game, and that changes things. So, anyways.
I wasn't surprised they won, but when Franklin was up 10 at the half, they're at home, the place was rocking, I was thinking, well, I thought Centennial would win, but now I don't.
Right.
And then they came out immediately in that second half and got it down to 2 or 3 quickly. And then once it got going, the same thing almost happened. It's like Centennial looked like to me they had this freedom of, we're the underdog, but we're going to take it to them. And I thought Franklin, because they hadn't really been in that position.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word panic because that's not correct. They didn't look the same. They just didn't. And it was too bad. You hate to see any of our teams lose. And Franklin's one of those teams that you felt like if they made it, they could win it.
Yep.
It just shows you how hard it is to make it. And to lose on your home floor, Battle of Franklin, and then you got to turn around and host the final with Indy playing. And let's face it, there's no love lost between those two teams the last few years. There's really not.
Yeah.
So that was a tough pill to swallow, but great season by Franklin. Final game for Mr. Basketball finalist Christian Brown. We do know that he just remained. He didn't win it, but he was a finalist. So congratulations to Christian. But a great season, great career. In that other game, Independence Nowensville, 36-23. Yes, I said that correctly. 36-23. It was 23 all going to the fourth quarter. I'd forgotten this until I was doing my research for the show. That it was tied going to the fourth. It was 13-0 in the fourth quarter. Nowensville didn't score a point. Independence in those tournament games.
That's nuts.
Because then they go to the final with Centennial 47-33. Independence, they gave up 89 points in 3 games.
That's defense, man.
33, 23, 33. That's less than 30 a game. What, I mean.
That's defending, man. That is defending.
And it was a good final. It was a really good final. Just Independence I felt like their experience, I think the matchup, Indy Centennial just favored Independence for whatever reason. They come out on top 47-33. That set up those sectional games we were talking about. Region champion gets to host. Region runner-up goes on the road.
I think that was, even for Independence, I do think, not saying it wouldn't have, but I do think this was one of those, and usually it is, but this is one of those years where you really didn't want to have to travel in the sub-state game. You did not, I don't think anybody wanted to go see Hillsboro.
Independence, I think Hillsboro's lost 4 or 5 times. Independence is one of them.
They blew them out.
Over 20.
Yeah, back in, was that in November or December?
Early.
It was 2024.
Yeah, definitely 2024. Yeah. They, on the road though there, I think it would have been tough.
That's a tough place to win, that time of year.
If they would have hosted Hillsboro, I think it could have been different.
Right.
But going on the road there, again, in that game, that championship game, Tylen Lewis 16, Dawson Miller 11, Harris Hall 8 points. Great tournament. Tournament Tylen, 3 straight years. And we talk about Jet Montgomery's a great player. But the last 3 years, Tylen has been the MVP of the region tournament. You'd have to go back.
I don't know. I'm sitting here trying to think.
Let's face it, you had to have won the region 3 straight years.
Right.
The runner-up ain't getting the MVP.
I think you'd have to go back to some of those, that run D. King went on with Brentwood, and I bet you don't have one there.
I bet you don't either. But 3 straight MVPs in the region tournament, that says a lot. Dawson Miller also on the all-tournament team.
Should be.
Daniel Patton from Centennial, Christian Brown, Chris Johnson from Nowensville. Again, great year from Nowensville too. To me, they're the one. If those twins, those Barney twins that play baseball, if they play basketball next year, and hopefully they will, look out for Nolo. Look out.
Early prediction?
I'm going to see who's on the roster.
Okay.
I'm not going to make a commitment yet. Maybe I'll say, listen, the title goes to Indy again because, let's face it, for the last several years.
That's where it's gone the last 4.
So to wrap up the boys' side, before we get to the state tournament bracket, I want to talk about girls. Any final thoughts, Mr. Mathews, about the boys' basketball run?
Well, just what a great region it was, and to watch all year long, or district. But just what we said at the beginning, just the toughness of this Independence team, man. Like, golly, this was not the. Again, it was a different look than they've had, and so many really, really good teams, that just beat each other all the way through. But when it came tournament time, as the Macho Man would say, the cream always rises to the top, and the cream rose once again. Independence, man.
It did.
And I love that how they've done it too. The way Coach Wilkins is. He's changed. This team was really built more for tough man-to-man defense. And, he went to that, I guess, really kind of 2 years ago, but really kind of sold out this year. Is that fair? I mean, that's what great coaches do,
He really
right?
sold out this year, yes.
Yeah, he sold out to it this year because that's what was best for this team. And look where they are, man. That's great coaching. It's not easy always, especially when you've had so much success. Like, it's easy to tell somebody to change something when you're 0-15 and you stink, but they'd been to 3 straight state tournaments, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, or 2 straight state tournaments. So I think it's really cool.
It's why they're there.
Yep.
The willingness to do something different. Hey, let's talk about this. I do want to wrap up the girls' season. So when we last talked, we were going into the region semi at Coffee County. Brentwood ends up falling to Lincoln County 51-35. Little surprised. Thought Brentwood might win that game.
Me too.
Lincoln County's good. They've been in the state tournament 2 straight years. And then Coffee County, 62-44 winners over Page. Coffee County was undefeated entering that game. They go on to the state tournament undefeated. Then Bradley Central gets them by only like 9 or 10 points. And Bradley Central was straight killing people.
Correct.
I think they won the final like 72-28.
Yeah. It was, well, number 4 in the country or something like that.
They're good.
But they're really, really good. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Their coach, Joe Pat Cope, was not happy about getting them in the first round because that is the state championship game. And it was. I mean, it really was, but that's just the way it is sometimes. But yeah, the Page one, no disrespect to Page, that one didn't surprise us at all. Lincoln County, surprise might not be the right word. I would have picked Brentwood, or I did, whatever. I can't remember if we were on there that week, but isn't it crazy the difference? Like we sweep on the boys' side, and then it's just crazy how different that is between boys and girls between the 2 districts.
Well, we do know this, unless Columbia Central ends up in there, next year's region will be Wilco teams because we're back to the small district,
right?
The little bitty region, So not going to be quite as fun, but we know that's another story for another day. That we'll definitely be the Final Four unless Columbia Central gets in there next year in the region tournament. Now, did want to mention Ella Ryan. Great career for Ella. Coach John Wilkins, brother of Mark.
Yes.
Did a nice job this year as head coach of Brentwood. But Ella, Miss Basketball finalist, didn't win it. I was a little surprised. I thought she might. And the reason I thought is because I thought the 2 from the same area might kind of split votes.
Cancel each other out.
But Ella ends up being a finalist, which is a great accomplishment. And Paige, Mary Elizabeth Fox, who had some injuries last year in the postseason. I was glad she got to play this year. But lots of good seniors for both teams. Coach Kaufman, another great job for him. Wonderful seasons. You make the region semis and you end up losing the 2 state tournament teams. No shame in that. No shame at all. All right, Tate, let's talk a little baseball.
It's here.
I mean, it's spring sport time. I know we've got to finish up basketball, which we'll do this week. Hey, let's actually do this first. I was going to save it for the end, but since we're on the basketball mode, let's do this now.
Let's do it.
Let's take a look at the state tournament draw. So Independence, if you take a look, they have Whitehaven. Whitehaven is the favorites to win the tournament. They come in at 31-3. They're in the same part of the bracket as Oak Ridge and Walker Valley. On the top, you got Bradley Central, Memphis East, Hillsboro, Maryville. Let's do it like we do the other tournaments. Let's go through our picks here. Bradley Central, Memphis East. I'll start us off. I'm going Bradley Central.
Ditto.
To get the win over 17-13. I look at that record for Memphis East. Is that one of those they had to forfeit some games?
My guess. But also, man, that time of year, that goes crazy out there every time of the year. Whitehaven only has 3 losses. 2 of them to teams out of Texas, and one of them, I believe, was Houston. So, but I'm guessing East. So one of them kicked Houston out somewhere. You never know who's going to come out of there when it gets that time of year. But yes, I'm guessing there's probably a few forfeits in there.
Hillsboro, Maryville, your pick.
I'm rolling with the Burros, man. Coach Thweet.
I'm rolling with the Burros too, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pencil them in to the state championship.
Me too. I think this is the year they get there.
I think it's their year. On the bottom there, Oak Ridge, Walker Valley. Don't know a lot about those teams. I do know Walker Valley seems to be a team that makes it a lot with a great record, and they get beat in the first round. I don't know if it's the region they're in. I'm nothing against them. But based on that, and Oak Ridge has had some success, I'm going with Oak Ridge.
I'm going with Oak Ridge. Same thing. Don't know enough about any of them, but I do know Oak Ridge is home to Big Ed's Pizza, some of the greatest pizza in the land. And there's been a lot of great football, basketball players come through Oak Ridge. So I'm going with the Wildcats.
Then we've got last game on Thursday night, 8:45, Whitehaven 31-3, Independence 23-12. Big task for Independence. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Listen, Coach Wilkins would not respect me if I didn't tell it like I really
That's right.
meant it and felt it. I think Whitehaven gets them, and I think Whitehaven wins the whole thing. Here's what I'm going to say. That game, we're going to go back and look. It'll be the closest game that Whitehaven plays. It's going to be
in the tournament.
In the tournament,
Gotcha.
In that 3-game tournament, you're going to see independent. It's going to be like Brentwood last year. Who'd they play in the first round? Memphis East. It's like, oh, they're going to get blown out, and they didn't.
Right.
Am I saying that right? Is that who it was? Anyway, their first round matchup it's going to be a blowout, and it wasn't. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think it's going to be a really close game. It's a fourth quarter game. I think Whitehaven's got a little bit too much, but I think we'll look back and go, man, that was the closest game Whitehaven played the whole tournament.
I could see that. I haven't seen them, that record and everything. I'm guessing, is there a lot of length on this team?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not great for Indy, right? So
They're good.
They're good. Same thing. Coach Wilkins would call us soft if we didn't really. So I hope I'm wrong, but I'm with you. I think Whitehaven gets the win over Independence in the first round, but I am going to disagree with you. I think it's Hillsboro, Whitehaven, and I think the Burros have enough.
Wow.
And I think Coach Thweet gets the. I think Coach Thweet and the Burros. By the way, what a great mascot, right?
It's great.
I think Coach Thweet gets the first state champ. Right? That would be the first basketball state championship at Hillsboro.
Yes.
What an accomplishment that would be. Right there in the heart of Green Hill, not to be mistaken with Green Hills.
So I'm going to back up on this too and say this. If Indy could pull the upset, they'll win it again.
I'd be A-okay with that.
So I'm going to go ahead and say what I'm saying, kind of like Bradley, Coffee County on the girls' side. The winner of that one's going to win it all. That might sound easy. Go, well, Whitehaven's winning, they're going to win it.
Right, right.
I'm saying if Indy wins, I think they're winning it.
I hope that happens. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be, if they can win it all.
Indy Hillsboro.
They'd be 26-12 and state champions. Again,
Tournament game.
Go back,
man.
well, tournament game, but also go back to talk about how tough that region is or that district. Man, because I'm a football guy.
Yes, of course. It's going to be fun.
All right, so I'm going Burros. You're going whatever they are. I think the Haven. What are they? I can see them in football. They put the Haven on the front of the jerseys. They're black and gold, right? Isn't that where Salisbury? Yeah.
You're speaking of things.
Yes. The Haven.
The Haven. I don't know anything about the Haven.
They're good in football.
West. No, Knoxville West.
That's right.
It's not West.
Correct.
I mean, West is a direction, not a school.
Correct. Or a last name.
Oh yeah, last name. All right, let's do this. So we'll put a bow on basketball. Next week we'll talk about state tournament results for boys. Now let's get a little baseball in here because we've gotten started. Just a reminder, our teams play 3-game series.
Yes.
Which I think is the absolute best. They play 21 district games, which I think is a lot of fun.
Pitching becomes a premium.
It does. And you notice in these series, game 3 ends up a lot of times being a slugfest.
Yes.
Summit, I was a little surprised at this one. Not that they won, but they swept Brentwood to start the season. When's the last time Brentwood's been swept in baseball?
I know.
Probably not many times, honestly. 5-0, 9-3, 7-6 in game 3. Page, look out for Page this year. They also have a win over Nolensville we'll talk about next week. 2-1 series win over Centennial, 12-0 in that last game. And then Independence with a 2-1 win over Nolensville. Look at game 3, 16-15.
That's a lot.
That was a Nolensville win. Independence had already won game 1 and 2. And then Ravenwood sweeps Franklin. So here's what I'm kind of getting a vibe on as the first series happens. I think Page is going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Okay.
And I think Ravenwood is kind of back. Not that they were ever gone, but
right.
They've had some years where some Teddy baseball years. I think they're going to end up around the top of the league. Is it too early to make that?
No, I don't think it's too early, but we'll see. I think Summit swept Brentwood, and Summit also we'll see where it ends up. But started off nice against Independence as well. I think Summit's one that maybe you could be. I think they're one that early signs are saying this might be their year. So they might be back because, they had that run there with Coach Kirby there for a while, a few years ago. But Independence is definitely, I think, probably the youngest of all of them. They got a lot of talent, but it's young. But yeah, I'm rolling with I'm with you, kind of. I'm rolling with Summit and Page. Sounds like you're kind of rolling with Ravenwood and Page.
Well, I'm not saying Page is going to be top 2. I'm saying they're going to make a jump.
Yeah,
they
should.
I definitely think they're going to make a jump. Hey, some softball scores. Nolensville with a couple of wins. They defeated Summit and Independence. Franklin beats Ravenwood. Summit, who had a tough start. They lost to Brentwood 5-4. They lost to Nolensville, but they get a win over Franklin. And then Page 13-0 over Centennial. Now, one thing I did want to mention, because I know we're short on time here. Lacrosse, I want to educate our audience a little bit. Now, the way lacrosse, you're not going to get mixed up on this. It's regions.
Right.
There are no districts. So in the girls' divisions, basically.
Like, what? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, how they're lined up.
Yeah.
Here. So if you look across the state, here's the thing, that this is why it'll make sense that we're so split up. If you look at the classes, there's anywhere from 14 to 20 teams total playing lacrosse. So those 14 to 20, you're going to get a state champion. So on the girls' side, Centennial is actually, and Page are in Class A. So they're in the smaller class, on the girls' side. So they're in a region with Green Hill, Hillsboro, Hunters Lane. So 2 of those teams will make the 8-team state tournament, basically.
Right.
In Class 2A, you've got Brentwood, Franklin, Indy, Ravenwood, Summit. By the way, Nolensville plays with Ravenwood. It's a co-op.
I want just on the girls' side.
On the girls' side only. So they don't have a girls' team. I would think that's kind of a rivalry that some of those girls might be.
I ain't playing with them.
Apparently they are. On the boys' side, so just to add confusion to our conversation, we've got 2 teams that are Class A again, Centennial and Page, and they're in a region with one other team, Lakeland Prep School. So one of our teams is going to be in the Final 8 for sure. My guess is maybe both.
Bro, I'm embarrassed to say. Do you even know where that is?
I don't know.
I've never heard of it.
Then on the 2A side, there's 2 different regions that we're involved in. There's Region 2, it's Cookeville, Nolensville, Oakland, Siegel.
Yep.
And then in Region 3, Brentwood, Franklin, Indy, Ravenwood, and Summit. So here's what let me wrap this up by saying this. The state champion on the 2A side is coming out of Region 3. If you can get by Brentwood, Franklin, Independence, Ravenwood, Summit, whoever comes out is going to be the winner. 2 of those teams are going to come out to the playoffs, but one of them is going to win the whole thing, is what I'm saying. The state champion will come from that region.
What about Nolensville?
I think it'll come from the other. I do. Nolensville's definitely good, but I think it'll come from that region. Nolensville will be in the mix too. Here's what I also think. I think we'll end up playing each other in the state championship.
I do too. No, I think that 100%.
So the rich are going to get richer, so to speak, with lacrosse being added. But as a sport that's growing, first year as a state tournament sport, man, it's going to look a lot different in 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
That's not many teams, really.
No.
If you're talking about across the state. That's why some, honestly, were surprised that we went through with sanctioning, because if you're talking now, you're in a division with 14 teams in the entire state, that's not that many.
No.
But you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere, and we will do really well.
Really well. A couple of state champions stacked on top of each other, I would think.
Flag football, this week we're finishing up week 3 with the games against the Nashville public schools team. So we'll finish that up this week, and then we'll be back playing one another.
That's gone well.
We're dominating, which is not totally surprising. We're really doing well. I'm not saying we won every game, but we're
Won most.
I feel like you set me up there. Yes, they've done well. And I want to mention too, Tate, because this happened during our time off. We have a football coaching hire, Jay Graham, Centennial High School football. He's taken over. I know you, being the University of Tennessee lover that you are, probably appreciate Coach Jay Graham, who was a great running back there for the Vols.
Great running back. Played there back when people talk about running back U and wide receiver U and things like that. When he was there, oh my gosh, you You had James Littleman Stewart played in the NFL. You had Aaron Hayden played in the NFL. Charlie Garner played in the NFL. Jay Graham, Mose Phillips. I mean, Sean Bryson probably. There were so many of them. They were loaded. But he was, as you being the Kentucky fan that you are, I know you remember Mr. Graham as well.
I think he ran over some people.
He did. But I tell you what, man, I got to meet him before spring break. Loved him. Great enthusiasm.
Yeah, he does.
Great enthusiasm. You can tell he's really excited to be there. You can tell he's about the kids. He's excited, man. So glad to have him here. It'll be fun to see him, as we start doing media days and things like that down the road. But he's coming here he wants to win football games. He made that very clear.
And let's hope we both love Coach Stewart. You make decisions that you think are best for you and your family. Hate to lose Coach Stewart, but Coach Graham, here's to hoping that we can build and continue that success that Coach Stewart had rocking the past couple of years. Hey, I do want to announce too, Tate, we'll be getting this out to the media soon. Wilco Workout 2025 will be April the 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. this year at Franklin High School. A little tougher getting the schedule in with lacrosse and all these things going on. So we had it at Centennial. We've moved it to Franklin, and that is our WCS version of the NFL Combine.
It's very cool.
So to speak. So we'll have college coaches there. It's going to be a lot of fun. 10 players from every school.
10 players from every school. It's very cool, the workout they get to go through. We talk about it. I love getting to watch maybe, a Brentwood kid getting coached by a Ravenwood coach, or a Franklin coach coaching a Summit kid. It's just cool. But anyways, we've heard from a lot of people. Coach Atkins was one. When he came here from up north in Sumner County, right, and he went to the Wilco workout, and he said, I had no idea, man. This is so cool. Like, nobody has anything like this, It is. It's really cool. And then going back to the very first year of it, I know we felt good about the turnout from college coaches, but every year I'm still even more surprised. It's really cool.
Now, listen, you know that sometimes I play a hand, I think, if it's got a chance to win. I mentioned to Coach Jay Graham. I said, hey, man, I know you're excited about the Wilco workout. It's going to be fun. But I would tell you the University of Tennessee is yet to be here.
What'd he say?
He goes, we're going to work on that.
There you go.
I said, okay. Because I know they're scheduling. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I know Coach gets down here and, made his rounds a couple times. But we want the Vols at the workout.
We want them all at the workout.
We want them here. So, and if you know what, it gets me maybe even more excited, though, is when the schools that you don't think of coming, like Army or Navy or Purdue or USC or, one of those kind of teams. I think that's kind of fun when those teams show up because it shows that we're bigger than just here. And I think what happens with our players sometimes, they can't think beyond sometimes the southern schools. There's other schools you can go play for. I thought it was cool that, Michigan, Colson, Junior Colson going to Michigan. I just kind of thought that was cool. Let's do something a little different than just the SEC schools for our top-level players. And the other thing that's great about the workout, listen, there's some other levels that are great levels. You don't have to play in the top division to have a great experience and play some good football. So I love to see kids get an opportunity regardless of the level.
And that's what this does. This creates opportunities. Very cool.
It's going to be fun. Tate, man, we
blew right through it, didn't we?
We blew right through it. Went a little long, Mr. Producer. We're sorry, intern Will. But listen, we were just excited to talk about some sports. We had in a couple of weeks. And lots of fun things to talk about next week, including, hopefully, an upset for Independence basketball.
And another state championship.
And another state championship. Tate, appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. Good to see you again.
Thank you for joining us for Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.